wonderful way to spend the fall season. Let's take a look at these traditional apple turnovers.
Yummy? Real yummy? Okay. Apple turnovers? Okay. Let me show you how to make them.
First things first, you want to grab the sweetest, reddest, most delicious apples that they have. Then you want to make sure you completely remove the skin. That way it doesn't ruin your apple pie filling. Now, this part, it's completely up to you. You can choose to do apple slices or you can choose to do apples in cubes. Now, I chose to do apples in cubes because I knew that I was making apple turnovers and I didn't want the apples to burst through the pastries. All right, next up, you guessed it, cinnamon and nutmeg. Now, I don't want to recommend any measurements because I typically don't use measurements when I am seasoning my food. So this is no different. I like to just season until my spirit guides tell me, girl, that is good. Now, one of the important things to make sure you do is mix your apples when you're seasoning them. You want to make sure all of your apples are evenly coated with your cinnamon and nutmeg. That way some isn't bland and the others are super flavorful. So make sure after you stir it, it's on to the next point. Oh yeah, butter. Full stick of butter. I like to use gluten-free whole wheat all-purpose flour, just a little bit to make it thick. You're gonna whisk it around, and what this does is makes a thick consistency ready for you to add in your vanilla extract. Now, this is typically a tricky process because I like to find the vanilla extract that has literally one ingredient. I found it and I use it moderately. You whisk that in and it creates this thick paste. Right now you can tell as I'm adding my apples in that it is still a little runny, but as I get ready to add in my coconut sugar and cane sugar, oh, it's gonna thicken up and turn perfect. Now as you can see, I like to add the butter so that it is coating the bottom of the pan evenly. Now my apples are going to simmer down and they're going to produce their own water. With the apples producing their own water, I've added in this coconut brown sugar and then cane sugar, and it's going to turn into this beautiful, thick, look at it, thick sauce that's going to be perfect for the inside of your apple turnovers. This is the consistency that you want. When I remove it from the stove, you'll see how perfect it is. So now that my apple pie filling has cooled down, you can tell how thick the paste is, and it is perfect. You don't want your paste to be runny because it will run out of the side of your pastries. All right, on to the next step, my favorite part. So I chose to use puff pastries to make these apple turnovers because they're absolutely perfect. Now, one thing if you didn't know, when you purchase your puff pastry sheets, roll them out. The very first time I used these, I didn't do that and I thought that I got gypped. But once you roll them out, they're perfect. I use a pizza cutter to cut some squares. I definitely could use a little work, but my family were just as satisfied and happy, even though some were smaller and some were bigger. It's about the love and the time and dedication that I put into all of these. So once I've cut them into squares, you see that I'm going to add my apple pie filling. Around the edges, I'm adding some just egg so that I could seal the puff pastries perfect. And then if you notice, I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to add an extra sealant on side of the puff pastries. That way the apple pie filling is not oozing out of the side. Now, a key thing is to cut some holes in the top. That way your apple pies have some room to breathe. They need to breathe so that they're not puffing everywhere. Now, as you can tell, I am gently brushing over the top of these with more just egg. It gives them the perfect crust and consistency. Now that I've pulled them out of the oven, it's easy from here. I roll them inside of some cinnamon, cane sugar, and some turbinado cane sugar. And this is how they turned out. They're crunchy, they're sweet, and they're delicious. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.